The $15,000 equipment is too expensive for your department to purchase. Why don't you just rent it for $48,000 a year? Back in the days when 33.6 kbps modems were hot shit, I worked for the engineering department of a growing company. This company had started small, it was privately owned, and the VPs had all put in a portion of their own money to start the company. By this time in the story, they were finally making a respectable $30-40 million a year in profits, but they still acted like a small company, penny pinching. Our engineering department was designing circuit boards with embedded computer systems, and to program these, instead of soldering the microcomputer to the board, we would solder on a microcontroller socket, and then plug in an in-circuit emulator that would pretend it was a microcontroller, and allow the programmer to create the required program. This in-circuit emulator, or ICE, was made by Hitachi. It plugged into a free PCI slot on your PC, and had a ribbon cable that would attach to the specialized microcontroller die that plugged into the socket. It was a mess. It gave our tiny IT department headaches, and it cost $15,000, and it was an absolute necessity for most of our most popular product lines, and there was only one of them, and we were renting it. It cost $4,000 a month. The first month we had it, our CTO and marketing VP planned our whole new product line around this family of microcontrollers. So, at the end of the month, us engineers asked management to buy this for us, since we would be using it for a while. The engineering VP saw the price tag, and told us to just rent it. Surely we would be done with it soon. Engineers, being practical, forgot about the objection and just put our noses to the wheel. The CTO and marketing made plans to keep us busy using this microcontroller line for a while. They pre-ordered a few million chips. After a year, the VP of Finance asked about this recurring contract line item. They called the engineer who had originally started the contract. The engineer helpfully forwarded the approval from the engineering VP, and his later email asking to buy it, and the VP's reply where he demurred. By the end of the week, this toy was ours, along with a second one, since finance determined that product rollout was being affected by not enough access to the equipment. Hitachi just gave us the first one, stopped charging us, and never asked for it back. We paid $15,000 for a second one. No one got fired or demoted, but at the next department meeting, the engineering VP tried to tell us that we didn't have enough money to upgrade our PCs. That one engineer spoke up. Would $40,000 cover it? The company found the money. How my 8th grade math teacher fought corporate greed and negligence with the power of gummy bears. I know that's a wild ride of a title, but I promise it's all true, so buckle up. When I was in 8th grade, I was in the first year of an experimental technology school. I had a class of about 180 8th graders, 12-14-year-olds, and about 10 teachers, so everybody shared the same math teacher. For our first semester we used a software called Gauge. It was alright for most classes, but it was absolutely atrocious when it came to math. Nothing worked with math. We were supposed to use the lessons they had, but it just didn't work. Math symbols didn't show up right and some questions even had the wrong answer marked. My math teacher wasn't allowed to just move to paper, and the company insisted that the problem was that our math teacher was older and just didn't understand technology. They said that if she had a genuine issue to email them. One day, I get to class, and there are 7 email addresses written on the board. She told us that we were going to go through our math lesson today, and take screenshots of every mistake we found and email them to the company's executives. 1 screenshot equals 1 email. 10 emails equals a packet of gummy bears. We had a blast trying to send as many emails as we could. One kid got 10 packets of gummy bears by end of the hour class. By lunch the principal called my teacher aside and asked for her to stop. She said, "Hell no, my afternoon classes haven't had fun yet." Long story short, our school district got all of its money back from using the software, and the company no longer exists. Or they changed their brand out of shame. IDK, I just can't find them anymore. TLDR, the software company said to email if she found actual issue. So she had an army of either graders, inspired by gummy bears, send thousands of emails to the CEO and other executives. Bigoted dude gets arrested because he thinks a woman can't fix computers. Long-time reader, first-time poster. I don't even know if it goes here, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Back in 2006, I worked for one of those big box stores that had an IT desk, formerly known as Nerd Herd LOL, where people could bring devices in to get serviced if there was a problem. We were located in Columbus, GA, which is right over a bridge from Phoenix City, AL. This is important because, where our store was placed, we would normally get a lot of servicemen and women coming up from Fort Benning who were generally pretty cool, but we would also get folks, mostly from Alabama, who were, let's just say, slightly unfavorable to folks of a certain skin color or gender. No offense to those who live in AL who are totally awesome. You know who you are. 3. Now, I'm a 5 feet 1 inches girl who, at the time, weighed a total of 120 pounds soaking wet. I was practically a hobbit. I was also one of the lead technicians in the department. I was the one the new hires went to if they were confused or couldn't troubleshoot certain problems. The team I worked with was amazing. The general manager of the store was great and the supervisor of my department was the man. I would regularly go out for drinks with these people. One of the best places I've ever worked, even though it was retail. One day, I'm working the counter to check customers in and do evaluations and diagnostics to give an estimate of what the repair price would be. In comes, let's call him Joe. He's wore a cut-off t-shirt, worn denim jeans, and a baseball cap with a Confederate flag on it that just barely covered his business in the front, party in the back haircut. I am not one to judge on looks. I've had plenty of people come in looking exactly the same way this guy did who have been an absolute delight to work with. Never judge a book by its cover, kids. But I still have my defenses up, just in case. I really hoped it wasn't going to go the not-so-friendly route. I was unfortunately wrong about dear Joe. Joe walks up to the counter with his PC tower and practically slams the unit on the desk. Joe, I need this fixed. It's broken. Me, okay, sir. Let me have a look and I'll see if I ca. Joe cuts me off and stares at me with a disgusted look on his face. Joe, excuse me? Me, if you give me a moment, sir, I'll be able to take a look at your computer and, Joe, or hell no. It was at this point that I realized where this was inevitably going to go wrong. Me, unfortunately, sir, I won't be able to give you an estimate if you don't let me diagnose your computer. Joe, there is no way in hell a woman knows about computers. I'm not letting you touch my computer. Get me the manager. Oh, yes, I thought, this is going to be effing awesome. I'm sure he wanted to talk to the general manager of the store, but I couldn't resist. Cue malicious compliance. I could have pulled the I'm the manager thing, because I was one of the senior staff, but my direct boss was actually out back working on repair projects and I couldn't help but get excited about how this was going to go down. Me, as lovely as sweet tea. Of course, sir, right away, sir. Mike, my supervisor, the guy who ran our department, and not the general manager of the store, was elbow deep in a motherboard replacement when I walked in and gave him the biggest, shit-eating grin. Me, hey, Mike, there's a guy out there asking for the manager. He looks at me confused because he was just supervisor, but I then proceeded to tell him exactly what was waiting for him out front. His face split into the brightest smile. He then proceeded to walk out to the front. Have I mentioned that Mike is a 6'3", 280 pounds black man who looked like he could eat a Mack truck for lunch? He was such a big, lovable teddy bear. We all adored him. The moment Mike stepped out, the customer freaked. Mike, hello, sir. I hear there's a problem? Joe lost IT. It starts with the F note before devolving into a racist tirade that I have never witnessed in my life. I'm from Massachusetts, so this was awful, yet amazing to watch, like a car crash. I just couldn't look away. Not that we have no racism in the Northeast, but damn. Joe kept screaming, using the nastiest slur, you know the one, over and over again while staff and customers alike watched in blatant horror. Security ended up having to come over to try to calm the man down. Our entire security team was black as well, so, naturally, Joe went even more crazy. Eventually, the police had to be called because the man was threatening me, calling me a C and a bitch, and threatening security and my boss, using that word that is not okay. My general manager got called out of his office and immediately called the police to have the man removed. God bless whichever dispatcher who received the call was. because they dispatched 2 black officers to the scene. Me and my general manager were literally the only white people involved in this train wreck, aside from bigoted Joe, and I watched with unbridled glee as Joe was cuffed and taken away by the police. Watching Joe foam at the mouth as he was dragged away made my whole week. Thank you for the entertainment, bigoted Joe. Edit. Thanks to all of you telling me about Chuck. Now I'm up at 5 a.m. binging this show. LOL. Oh okay. I'll move the truck, Mom. I am a 22F. I live with my parents but I'm moving out in a couple weeks, so my mother and I have been bumping heads a lot. The biggest thing we fight about is my clothes and my sleep. Recently, it's been more about my sleep than anything else. I go into work at 2 p.m. every day at my full-time job, so I'm there relatively late. When I get home I like to decompress, play video games, watch TV, work out, and make something light to eat. I don't always do all of these things in the same day, but what I'm getting at is I stay up late. I get off around 11, home by 11:15, and I won't go to sleep until around 3/4 morning, the latest being 4 if I'm with my boyfriend. She wakes me up every day from between 6 a.m. - 9 a.m., but it's never just once. She'll do it 2-4 times in the morning until I can't go back to sleep and I'm pissed. She doesn't even wake me up for important shit. It's either to bitch at me or make me do something for her. I've asked her time and time again to stop waking me up. I have a hard time going back to sleep. Could you please just let me sleep until 11 a.m. and when I'm up I'll do what you need me to do? But she never listens. Well, currently, she's been having work done on her house. The workers are in their final stages so they're just painting their house. Well, once again she woke me up at 7:30 a.m. today by barging into my room to move her truck because the workers are here. I groan, get up, and throw on a nightgown she doesn't like. We've had several fights about this nightgown because it's short, even though it's long enough to cover everything it needs to. I looked at myself in the mirror and thought about changing, but instead I smirked and thought to myself, if you can't respect my boundaries, why am I going to respect yours? I keep the nightgown on. I walk out of my room, move the truck, and go back inside. As soon as she sees me while I'm walking back to my room she starts screaming, Catchwingooders, you went outside like that? You're basically naked. Why do you hate me? She's standing in front of me trying to block my way from going to my room. I duck underneath her arms and ignore her. My mother starts following me while yelling about me living with her and my father so I can't be dressing like her around their house, especially when my father and working men are around. I get into my room, close the door, and take off the nightgown so I'm butt-ass naked about to lay back down and she swings my door open still trying to argue with me. I can't believe you would embarrass me like that. Put on some effing clothes. We're talking. I laugh in her face and close the door on her. She attempts to reopen the door so I grab the handle. I'm not allowed locks on my door. Dude, no, I'm naked. We're not even talking. You're just yelling. The truck is moved. Please, leave me alone. She starts sobbing about how everyone is so mean to her. She hates her life and stomps off to call my dad to complain about me. ETA. 1. Please stop telling me to move out and pay my own bills. That's literally the whole plan in next few weeks if y'all could actually read the freaking post. 2. Well, you can't hate it that bad if you live there still since you've been over the age of 18 for 4 years. Oh my god. I moved out when I was 19. My ex-boyfriend was beating the shit out of me. The abusive relationship I was in effed up a lot of things including my finances. I was 20 about to turn 21 lost and effing confused. My parents let me move back in. I've been saving for a car of my own which my abusive ex ruined, to get my credit up so I can get a car loan, and to save up money so I can put a down payment on a car and also all the extra fees apartments charge when you get approved to move in. I haven't just been sitting on my ass living with my parents. I've been getting my shit together and it's taken time because I effed up. I ruined my life because of a bad relationship I was in. 3. You're obviously not grateful for your mother. I love my mom to death, but she can be toxic and abusive and manipulative. I didn't leave one toxic relationship just to hop back into another one. I deserve respect and privacy, the very minimum. I love my mom but I'm allowed to vent. None of you know anything about me. 4. This hoe blew up LOL, thanks for ALL the awards. I appreciate IT to no end. Don't want 60 seconds of adjustment? Okay, enjoy waiting 6 weeks. So I'm a dental assistant for a private practice. Let me just preface this by saying, most of our patients are wonderful people, friendly, happy to see us, respect our professional opinions and recommendations, etc. But literally just like 3 hours ago, I had the biggest Karen in for what should have been a simple appointment. So when we do crowns, or caps as some people know them as, we prep the tooth beforehand and take an impression. Then that impression goes to a lab, and the techs there make the crown. It takes 2-3 weeks for them to send the crown back. When we deliver the crown to the patient, the doctor and I try the crown in first to see how it fits. It is very rare that it fits perfectly. We almost always have to make some adjustments, shaving down the crown here and there, checking the space in between the teeth, checking the bite, etc. All of this is standard. The main thing we use is called articulating paper. When the patient bites down on it, we can see heavy blue markings where the bite needs adjusting. The more we adjust, the lighter those marks get, and even stop marking altogether sometimes. Most exchanges with the patient are like this: "How's it feel? It's a little high. Okay, we'll adjust that." We use the articulating paper, then grind the crown down a little. "How's it feel now? Oh, feels much better. Okay, cool, let's cement it in." This takes maybe 5 minutes at most. This lady we had tonight was having none of it. Us: "How's it feel? Karen: Ugh, it's way off." Us: "Okay, we'll adjust it." "How's it feel now?" Karen: "The same." Us: Really? No change." Karen: "The same." Us: "Okay, no biggie. Let's adjust more." We did this maybe for 5 minutes, over and over, and she kept insisting that it was exactly the same. No change. Even though the marks were gone at this point, meaning that her teeth were no longer even touching the crown. At this point we had a couple options which the doctor presented to her. "Doc, okay, well, I can keep adjusting the crown. The only issue is that if I keep reducing the porcelain on top, the metal underneath might end up showing. Are you okay with that?" Karen: "No." Doc: "Okay, well then I need to make a small adjustment to the tooth above this one, so that they don't touch. It's very superficial." Karen: "No, don't touch my other teeth." Doc: "We do this all the time, ma'am. It doesn't harm the teeth. We're basically just polishing it." Karen: "No, that's a lie. If you guys did it correctly the first time, you wouldn't have to adjust it at all." Me: "Ma'am, we do this for everyone. The lab almost never makes them perfect. We either have to adjust the crown itself or the opposing teeth." Karen: "No, you screwed up." Me: "Well, we have to adjust one or the other. So which would you prefer? Do you want metal showing?" Karen: "No." Me: "So we can polish the opposing tooth." Karen: "No." Me: "It'll literally take a few seconds." Karen: "No, you're lying. It's gonna harm my teeth." At this point the doctor suggested getting our office manager to talk to Karen. Our office manager is an awesome lady. She's old, doesn't give a F, and is 2 years away from retirement. I told her the situation, and she laughed and said, "Okay, let's make her wait another month." I don't give a shit. LOL. So she marched right in there and said, "Okay, ma'am, since you don't want this crown, we'll send it back to the lab and have them redo it." So instead of just waiting the 60 seconds for us to adjust, she now has to wait 3 weeks to come in again, and that's just to re-prep the tooth. Then she has to wait another 3 weeks for the crown to come back from the lab, again. Anyway, thanks for reading. I mostly just wanted to type this out to rant. I've been working as a dental assistant for almost a decade now, and I've never had an exchange like that. It was so bizarre. I straight up think she was either lying to our faces or just crazy. It made 0 sense. LOL. Edit. To the people saying she has every right to request the crown be redone. No duh. That's not my issue. My issue is that she accused us of lying, screamed at us, wouldn't tell us why it felt exactly the same, and didn't want any solutions we offered. I've had many patients request crowns be redone. Not a problem. Sometimes the color is off. Sometimes the fit is really wrong. They just weren't total Karens about it. You can be polite and still get your way. You won't pay $100 for a new hard drive? Okay, enjoy paying $22,000 for my time to deal with the problem. I had a job where I had a computer which was, incidentally, also the web server for a very important internal web application. I thought this was really stupid that it wasn't in a server room being managed by IT, but for some weird reason they wouldn't do it. I didn't use this application or have anything to do with it, but it took up a large chunk of the hard drive and made it slow. I didn't even know what it was on the hard drive, so there was a bunch of old development software I could never remove for fear of harming the application. I was also not permitted to turn the machine off or even sign out nights or weekends, so it would be running whenever anyone needed the application. I had to just lock the screen and leave it. This application was apparently something developed by my department before I joined the company, and everyone involved with it was no longer there, and nobody really knew anything about how it worked other than that this machine had to be running and signed in, and it wasn't developed in our normal system and wasn't in our code repository. By the end of my time with the company, they'd had such turnover that I was literally the only person in the department who knew it was even there. I was a web developer and I required a vast amount of disk space for my work, for reasons mostly relating to how moronic management was about process. I had to keep 3 complete copies of everything the company ever developed. I often ran out of disk space. I had to use increasingly desperate measures to deal with this, up to and including deleting anything that Microsoft included with Windows that I didn't actually need, like the camera app on a PC with no camera. It quickly got to the point that I had to call IT to tell them my PC was becoming unusable due to disk space and could they please do something about it, and suggested that because of this application they might want to take this PC into management and give me a different one. I thought they would do something like replace the computer. Identical would be fine as long as it didn't have this application on it, or give it a larger internal disk, or maybe even just attach an external disk. I would still have a slow machine, but I'd have had the space to do my work. But they told me that I'd have to remove what I could and defrag the disk to make more space, and I would just have to suffer, and please don't call them about this again. I talked to my boss and was told that IT's word was final and I would just have to deal with it. So it'd get bad, I'd remove what I could and start a defragment, and the machine would become too slow for me to use for about 24 hours, during which time I could do no work. This happened about once a week, so it took about 1/5 of my time, not counting time spent looking for stuff to delete. I kept telling Manglement this was happening, and they kept telling me to shut up and deal with it, but at least when they wanted me to do stuff and it was I can't, my computer is busy clearing disk space and is presently unusable, they moaned but understood and left me alone. So, because IT was too lazy to do anything and Manglement was too lazy to go to bat for me and the company was unwilling to spend $100 on an external hard drive, they got to spend over $22,000 a year on salary for me to sit around and wait for the machine to make some space so I could do my work. That wasn't my salary, that was the portion of my salary that they were wasting on this problem, not counting the value of the time of everyone else that had to do my work while I couldn't. Oh. And it was getting to the point that I wouldn't be able to deal with it at all. There wasn't anything left to delete and defragging wasn't reclaiming any more space than the company's internal software took up more and more space every day, and I estimated I had about a week left before it became fully unusable. When I had a heart attack and a stroke and never went back, I occasionally think, with, admittedly, some glee, of the panic it must have caused when they no doubt turned off the computer and sent it to IT to be wiped. And a few hours later panicked users started calling demanding to know where their precious application that they couldn't live without was, only for my evil Manglement to say, honestly, what application? If you don't like the job you can just quit, okay? A bit of context here. I'm originally from Syria and I spent around 7-8 months in Sudan, Africa, and the country being a third world country and super poor didn't have any good jobs, but at the same time prices were so cheap you can live with only around $100 a month. Rent, bills, food and water, but gasoline was expensive to the point you might need around $50–100 just for commuting to work. So it comes to around $200 per month if you're going to work by any kind of transportation. As for jobs, the best you can do without prior experience is either work in a restaurant or a factory for at most $100, which meant you had to be close to the job or get them to cover transportation. So, around 5 months ago, I got in contact with the restaurant owner and talked with him about a job offer I saw. The job we talked about was being a warehouse manager for the restaurant. My shift starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m., 7 days a week with only 1 vacation day per month. and I get 1 sandwich per day as lunch and 1 meal per week to take home. I asked about the salary and he said we will discuss it later. I asked how I will organize the warehouse and he said he will provide me with a laptop to work on later. I agreed to work a trial period of a week and then we will discuss the salary and see if it works out. First day on the job he hands me the keys of their warehouse and when I open it I find a glorious mess. I asked my coworkers about it and they said no one has worked as a warehouse manager for the past few months. I go in and start looking at what we have in the warehouse and taking notes. Then I started a new Google account on my phone and made a new Excel sheet on it and sorted everything there. By the end of day 1 I had went through most of the things in the warehouse and I only have 2 words to describe what I saw there. Holy shit, it was such a mess. The workers didn't even know what they have in that warehouse. I.e., they need mustard and they don't find it the moment they look at the shelves. They buy a new box. And I can say for sure the warehouse was left like this for more than a year, because I found meat in the freezer that was expired since more than 2 years ago. I'm never gonna eat anything with meat in it from that restaurant. Second day on the job, I started actually doing my job by ordering new supplies, sorting the list I made on my phone by type so we can find items in it quickly, putting away the expired products, etc. During my second day and out of nowhere the boss comes to the warehouse and gives me a list of everyone in the restaurant and tells me to take their attendance because the guy responsible for this is busy with other things in the kitchen. I tell him I still don't know anyone in the restaurant but he insists that I can just learn their names while doing my job. Okay, whatever. I'm trying to impress him the first few days so I will do it. By the end of day 2, I had finished inputting everything into my phone, throwing away all expired ingredients and even taking attendance. All that's left is physically sorting out the warehouse to make it look better and I will have done a great job and was hoping for a good answer from the boss. I go to discuss things with him at the end of my shift. I show him how I sorted everything on my phone and tell him that once he bring over a laptop we can just move the file there and it's easy for anyone to check the inventory since it's on Google and all that stuff. Then I explained to him the state of the warehouse when I came and how much I worked to make it better, and he was really impressed and praised me for a job well done. Then I asked how much my salary will be. Your salary will start at $60 and then as you work I will improve it and maybe in a few months you will reach $120. Me, what? I can't afford to even stay alive until then. Transportation between here and my house alone are $50. Are you telling me to not eat or pay rent during this month? At least. Cuts me off with an angry voice. If you don't like it then you can just leave. I figured that he wasn't someone to be reasoned with so I immediately answered okay and left. Bullet successfully dodged. The next day one of the co-workers there calls me asking where I keep the list of their inventory because he didn't find it and I answered that there is no list. He was surprised and asked about the list I showed the boss and I said that it was actually on my phone and he asked me to send it to him, to which I reply with I'm sorry but since I quit I just removed the file from my phone. Have fun sorting through that mess and I hang up. It wasn't that big of a victory but at least I didn't give them the results of my efforts for free. Because it happened like that my 2 days of work there were unpaid. Edit. Some people are showing concern for me in the comment section and I'm very thankful to you guys. Don't worry though. About a month ago I moved from Sudan to Erbil in Iraq and a week ago I found a good job which gets me a good enough salary to cover my expenses here and have some money left. Some people in the comment section are getting angry I called Sudan a third world country. Now let me be clear about this. Me being from Syria, I never thought my country was better than Sudan. I consider Syria to be hell on earth. If you can beat being wanted by the military and having to sneak away from them whenever you see them, having an AK-47 pointed at your head, waking up to the sounds of air raids from your own military on your city, and a mortar shell landing less than 30 meters away from you, then I will admit your country is worse than mine. When I say a third world country, I mean a shithole like what most people in third world countries mean when they call their countries as such. So stop being so butthurt about something that doesn't concern you. I can call my country whatever I want and I know Sudanese people who call their country as third world too. Consider it the same as the N-word. Me being a third world resident get to call all similar countries as third world countries. Give me a slow laptop and blame me for taking too long to do things? Fine. I know I'll get a better one from you soon enough. Inspired by some of the recent posts about technology woes in school settings, I have one from my middle school years. I was part of a technology pilot program which wanted every kid to have a laptop to accompany their schooling. My school, being in an affluent neighborhood, assumed that every student would bring their own half-decent laptop to class and said they would provide laptops to those that could not afford them. They were right to think that this would be a fairly small amount, at least initially. My parents were unable to buy a laptop after some troubling financial situations arose, so we asked the school to provide one. Oh boy, what a hunk of junk that was. The total polar opposite of the top-end fancy laptops available at the time. It had the computing power of synthetic peanut butter and had the resolution of a knockoff kaleidoscope. I had a lot of fun with that machine. Anyway, it was very slow in comparison to what my peers were using. The school, in their infinite wisdom, thought that not exaggerating here, I tested it. 10 times slower response time would not be an issue. I informed them that I would be at a significant disadvantage to the other students, but they brushed it off. I was near the top of my class but not by so far I could just take a handicap like that. But Alice, all that protest was in vain. Well, if they wanted it that way, that's what they were going to get. The first computer-based test, 30 minutes. My classmates finished after 15-20 minutes. Guess who was stuck there nearly an hour after my classmates? Yeah, that was fun. Somehow this was my fault though. The teachers proctoring knew it wasn't. The IT department knew it wasn't. Yet, it was still my fault for being slow. I got reprimanded for that. So come the next test, I asked to take the test on paper instead. The leader of the pilot program went on this long lecture about how the experience is different. Fuck off. It's a math test. How much more different can it be? After another excruciatingly long testing period, the teacher slid me a copy of the paper test and said he'd overlook it for now. My favorite teacher, by the way, and submit the test through his own account citing technology troubles. Lo and behold, it's literally no different from the test I was just taking. A few days after taking that second test, parents started complaining. Can you guess why? A student to get good grades is also allowed 2 times extra time? Yeah, that totally went over well. My grades actually didn't really improve much from that, but the point still stands. Those parents were so infuriated by the disparity in technology available, no doubt wanting their kids not to have anything except at least equal equipment to the others, and that I was getting some sort of advantage somehow, that they pushed for the school to enforce a minimum standard of laptop. Myself, I can't complain too much. I got a free, good, laptop. TLDR. Make do with this crappy laptop that basically requires that you take extra time on every test or you literally cannot complete the test. Me, okay, but I think this is a bad idea. Edmonds, just do it. Parents, hey, WTF, why does he get extra time? Admins to me, okay, fine. Take this expensive laptop that we totally couldn't have avoided by giving you something half decent in the first place. Thank you for watching. Daily uploads.